I still remember the exact sound the closet door made when it creaked open because that was the moment my life split in two. I was standing there in my mother's blouse, her skirt brushing against my legs, trying to breathe in heels I barely knew how to walk in, when her voice cut through the hallway. "Daniel?" My heart stopped. 5 seconds later, she was in the doorway, staring at me. Not screaming, not crying, just looking. And then she said the words that changed everything. "If you're going to do this, you're going to do it properly. Act like a lady or else." I thought I was about to lose my family. I had no idea I was about to find myself. My name is Daniel. I'm 26 years old. And for most of my life, I lived between two versions of myself. The version the world saw, quiet, athletic, normal. And the version that only came alive behind a locked bedroom door. I think it started when I was 12. My mom worked late shifts at the hospital, and one afternoon I wandered into her room. I don't even know what pulled me there. Curiosity, maybe. Or something deeper I couldn't name yet. Her closet felt like another universe. Soft fabrics. Colors that weren't gray or navy. Shoes that clicked with authority. When I slipped on a pair of her heels, I almost fell immediately. But when I steadied myself and looked in the mirror, I didn't see a joke. I didn't see something wrong. I saw possibility. Have you ever looked at yourself and felt closer to who you really are? Not who people expect you to be. Who you actually are. That feeling became my secret. Through high school. Through college. Through every man-up comment and every locker room joke. I dated. I played the part. I learned how to lower my voice. I learned how to laugh at things that made me uncomfortable. But at night, when the world was quiet, I would open my own closet and step into something softer. Drop a comment if you've ever hidden a part of yourself just to survive. Because hiding becomes exhausting. And secrets have a way of surfacing. Mine exploded on a Tuesday night.
It wasn't supposed to happen that way.
I had just moved back home temporarily. Job transition. Just a few months, I told myself. But being back in that house stirred something in me. Old memories. Old urges. Old fear. Mom and I weren't close emotionally. She loved me, I know that, but she believed in structure. Discipline. Clear lines. So when I found myself standing in front of her closet again at 26 years old, my heart was pounding like I was 12. "Don't do it," I whispered to myself. But another voice answered, "You're tired of hiding." That night, something inside me snapped. I didn't want to sneak anymore. I didn't want to rush or panic or feel ashamed. So I made a decision. If I was going to keep living under her roof, I was going to stop pretending, at least with myself. My hands were shaking as I chose a simple outfit. Nothing dramatic. Just a cream blouse. A knee-length skirt. Neutral heels. I told myself it was harmless. I told myself she'd never know. But as I stood there adjusting the fabric, I caught my reflection and something shifted. This didn't feel like dress up anymore. It felt like alignment. It felt like identity. And then I heard the front door open. Earlier than usual. My stomach dropped. I had no idea what I was getting myself into. Let me tell you something about preparation. It's intimate. It's not just clothes. It's mindset. That night before she came home, I had actually taken my time. I shaved carefully. Slowly. Like every movement mattered. I watched tutorials quietly on my phone. How to blend foundation. How to soften my jawline with contour. How to apply mascara without blinking like crazy. The first attempt? Disaster. Smudged eyeliner. Uneven lipstick. I almost gave up. But something about trying again felt important. Have you ever worked so carefully on something because it felt sacred? That's what it felt like. Each layer of makeup wasn't about hiding. It was about revealing. When I zipped up the skirt, I felt exposed and powerful at the same time. The heels were harder. I practiced walking across the room, wobbling, catching myself on the dresser. At one point, I actually whispered, "You've got this." Which sounds ridiculous, right? But in that moment, I needed encouragement from someone, even if it was myself. And then, the door opened downstairs. My heart slammed into my ribs. Footsteps. Keys dropping in the kitchen. her voice humming softly. I froze. Part of me wanted to rip everything off. Another part whispered, "Stay." So I stayed. And when she walked into my room and saw me standing there, fully dressed, fully visible, something unexpected happened. She didn't scream. She didn't cry. She didn't say, "What is wrong with you?" She just stared. And then she said calmly, "If you're going to do this, you're going to do it properly." I blinked. What? She stepped into the room, closed the door behind her, and looked me up and down. "That lipstick shade washes you out," she said. I was too stunned to speak. Then she added, "And you're slouching. Shoulders back." That was the moment everything changed. Then something happened that changed everything. She walked to her vanity, opened a drawer, pulled out a different lipstick.
"Sit," she said.
I sat. My heart was pounding so loudly, I thought she could hear it. She didn't look angry. She didn't look disappointed. She looked focused. "You've always had delicate features," she said quietly. "You hide them." Her fingers were steady as she adjusted my makeup. She blended with confidence. She brushed my hair differently. She even corrected how I crossed my legs. "Confidence starts with posture," she said, "not clothing." I looked in the mirror when she stepped back. And I swear to you, I didn't recognize myself. Not because I looked like someone else, but because I looked like me, the version I had only seen in fragments. I felt exposed, terrified,
"Seen."
And then she said the words I'll never forget. "I knew when you were 12. My breath caught. I saw my heels out of place. I'm your mother." All those years. She knew. I didn't say anything because I didn't know how, she admitted. That was the shocking revelation. The secret I thought I had buried perfectly wasn't a secret at all. Have you ever carried shame that didn't need to exist? That moment cracked something open inside me. For the first time, I stood in heels, not hiding, but standing. Still nervous. Still shaking. But standing. I thought I was ready. I wasn't.
"Walk," she said.
"Where?" "Downstairs." My stomach dropped. "Mom, if you're going to live authentically," she interrupted gently, "you don't do it halfway." Every step down those stairs felt like walking into judgment, even though it was just us. But you have to understand, that staircase represented every fear I'd ever had. What if someone sees? What if they laugh? What if I lose everything? Halfway down, my heel caught the edge of a step. I stumbled. She grabbed my arm immediately.
"Slow," she said.
"Grace is practice." And somehow that line made us both laugh. There it was, the awkward moment. Me, wobbling in heels, nearly falling, my strict mother coaching me like it was finishing school. It should have been absurd, but it felt bonding. We reached the living room. She handed me a glass of water, like nothing unusual was happening. Then she sat across from me and asked quietly, "Who are you when you're dressed like this?" That question hit harder than anything else. Not "what are you doing?" Not "why?" But "who are you?" I swallowed. "I feel freer," I admitted. Less tight. Less like I'm performing. She nodded slowly. "I don't understand all of it," she said honestly. "But I understand hiding. And I don't want that for you." What happened next shocked me to my core. She reached across the coffee table and squeezed my hand. We talked for hours. About identity. About fear. About church. About how terrified I had been of disappointing her. She admitted she had been afraid too, afraid of saying the wrong thing. Afraid of losing me. That night didn't magically fix everything. We still had awkward conversations. Still boundaries to navigate. But something shifted. Acceptance doesn't always come with fireworks. Sometimes it comes with quiet correction of your lipstick. Sometimes it sounds like shoulders back. Sometimes it's just a hand squeeze across a coffee table. I went to bed that night without scrubbing my face raw, without shame. And for the first time in my life, I didn't feel like I had to split myself in two. If you've ever felt divided inside, let me know. Have you experienced something similar? Here's what I learned. Courage doesn't always look loud. Sometimes it looks like staying in the room, like standing still when you want to run, like letting someone see you. My journey with crossdressing isn't about rebellion. It's about alignment, about self-discovery, about finding confidence in the parts of yourself you were told to hide. And if you're hiding who you really are, remember this. The version of you that feels most honest, that's not your enemy. That's your compass. Your story matters. Your truth matters. You matter. And sometimes the people you fear losing the most are just waiting for you to stand up straight. Shoulders back. Chin up. Act like a lady.
No.
Act like yourself. The next morning, I woke up thinking it had all been a dream. The makeup lesson. The staircase. The hand squeeze. It felt too surreal. But when I walked into the kitchen, Mom was already at the table with coffee, and she didn't look shocked to see me. She looked thoughtful.
Sit, she said.
My stomach tightened. Whenever she said sit growing up, it meant I was in trouble. I sat. She folded her hands. If you're going to explore this part of yourself, she said carefully, there will be rules. There it was. Mom's rules. My chest tightened. I almost braced for impact. No hiding. Not in this house, she continued. That surprised me. No lying. No sneaking. If you dress, you tell me. Not because you need permission, but because secrecy breeds shame. I swallowed. That hit deep. And, she added, locking eyes with me, you respect yourself. This isn't a costume. It isn't a joke. If you do this, you do it with dignity. Act like a lady or else. But now I understood what she meant. It wasn't a threat. It was a standard. Drop a comment if you've ever expected rejection and got something completely different. Because I had prepared myself for war. Instead, I got structure. 3 days later, she knocked on my bedroom door. You busy? My heart raced.
No.
She opened the door and held up a navy wrap dress. Try this. It was simple, elegant, not flashy. I hesitated. Daylight felt different. Night felt safer. Private.
Contained.
Daylight meant reality. Just around the house, she said gently, reading my face. And that's how it began. The first time I walked through the house in daylight, fully dressed, something shifted inside me. Sunlight hits differently than lamplight. It exposes everything.
Texture. Lines.
Nerves. I caught my reflection in the hallway mirror and almost didn't recognize the calm in my posture. Mom passed by and simply said, shoulders back. I adjusted instinctively. And for the first time, I didn't feel like I was playing pretend. I felt integrated. Have you ever experienced that moment where fear turns into steadiness? It wasn't fireworks. It was quieter than that, but stronger. Then she said something that stopped me cold. You can't build confidence in a bubble. I knew what that meant. No, I said immediately. She didn't push. But later that week, she placed her keys on the counter and said, casually, I need to run to the grocery store. My pulse spiked. She didn't say it directly, but the implication hung in the air. My brain flooded with worst-case scenarios. What if someone recognizes me? What if someone laughs? What if someone takes a picture? What if someone sees me? I whispered. She looked at me calmly. They will, she said. That answer hit like ice water. And I asked. And nothing, she replied. People see things every day. I stood frozen. This wasn't about clothes anymore. This was about courage. About identity outside a bedroom mirror. About stepping into the world without apology. She didn't force me. She just waited. And after 10 minutes of pacing, sweating, second-guessing, I said, okay. If you've ever had a moment where your entire body screams don't, but something deeper whispers go, you know exactly what that felt like. The automatic doors slid open, and my heart nearly burst out of my chest. Every sound felt amplified. Carts rolling, fluorescent lights humming, voices overlapping. I was hyper-aware of everything. How I walked, how my heels sounded, where my hands rested. Mom walked beside me like nothing was unusual. Not protective, not embarrassed, just present. And slowly, something incredible happened. Nobody stopped. Nobody pointed. Nobody gasped. A few people glanced, then kept moving. Life continued. I reached for a carton of milk, and my hand shook slightly. But I didn't drop it. Small victory. At one point, an older woman smiled at me in the produce aisle. Just a normal smile. I almost cried. Not because it was dramatic, but because it was ordinary. Ordinary felt revolutionary. Have you ever realized the monster you built in your head was smaller in real life? Halfway through checkout, though, I heard a familiar voice. Daniel? My stomach dropped to the floor. I turned slowly. It was Mr. Thompson, my old high school basketball coach. And in that moment, time froze. Let me know in the comments, what would you have done? Because what happened next changed everything again. I swear my soul left my body. There he was, Mr. Thompson, 6'3", whistle around his neck, even though he wasn't coaching anymore. The man who used to shout, "Toughen up," every time I hesitated on the court. And now he was staring at me, in a navy wrap dress, heels, makeup. My throat closed. Every insecurity I'd ever had came rushing back. This is it. This is where it collapses. This is where I become the joke. I felt my mom's presence beside me, steady, grounded. Mr. Thompson squinted slightly. And then he said something I never expected. "Daniel, is that you?" I could have lied. I could have run. Instead, my mother's voice echoed in my head. No hiding. I swallowed. "Yeah," I said softly. "It's me." There was a long pause. Long enough for my heartbeat to feel deafening. Then he nodded once. "Huh," he said. That was it. Just, huh. No laugh. No anger. No scene. He shifted his groceries and added, "You look different." I almost laughed from the absurd understatement. "Yeah," I replied. "I guess I do." And then he surprised me again. "You always did move lighter on your feet than the other guys," he said. "Guess that makes sense." Was it awkward?
Yes.
Was it perfect acceptance?
No.
But it wasn't disaster. And sometimes not disaster is victory. He gave a small nod and walked away.
Just like that.
The catastrophe I had rehearsed in my head for years evaporated. Have you ever realized you've been living afraid of something that never actually happened? Drop a comment if fear has ever controlled your choices. Because that moment, right there in aisle 7, cracked something open in me. We walked out of the store. The doors slid open again. But this time, the air felt different. Lighter. I got into the passenger seat and just sat there, breathing. Mom started the engine but didn't pull away. "Well?" she asked calmly. I let out a shaky laugh. "I thought my life was over." She smiled slightly. And it wasn't. She nodded. "Most of the prisons we live in," she said, "don't have walls. Just imagination." That line hit deep. Because she was right. For years, I built a cage out of assumptions. Out of worst-case scenarios. Out of other people's possible reactions. And none of them had actually happened the way I imagined. I looked down at my hands resting in my lap. They weren't shaking anymore. For the first time, I felt something unfamiliar. Confidence. Not loud. Not flashy. But steady. Have you ever felt that quiet shift inside you, where something clicks into place? That was it. That night, I stood in front of my bedroom mirror again. Same house. Same reflection. But different energy. I wasn't checking for flaws. I wasn't scanning for mistakes. I was just looking. And for the first time, I said it out loud. This is part of me.
Not all of me.
Not a costume. Not rebellion.
Part of me.
And instead of shame, I felt gratitude. For the journey. For the fear I pushed through. For the courage I didn't know I had. Mom knocked lightly on the door.
"Come in," I said.
She stepped inside and leaned against the frame. "You okay?" she asked. I nodded. "Better than okay." She studied me for a moment and said something I'll never forget. "I don't need to understand every part of you to love you." I don't think she knows how powerful that sentence was. Because sometimes acceptance isn't loud applause. Sometimes it's quiet loyalty. Have you ever longed for just one person to stand beside you? That's all it takes sometimes. Just one. I finally asked her, "What did you mean that night when you said act like a lady or else?" She smiled softly. "It wasn't a threat," she said. "It meant if you're going to walk this path, do it with dignity, with confidence, with respect for yourself. The world will try to reduce you. Don't help it." That changed everything. It wasn't about control. It was about standards, about carrying yourself with intention. And suddenly, the phrase didn't feel heavy anymore. It felt empowering. Act like a lady, or else you betray yourself. If you're listening to this right now, and you're hiding, if you're splitting yourself in half just to keep peace, if you're terrified of what people might say, let me tell you something. The fear is louder in your head than it usually is in reality. Courage isn't the absence of fear. It's walking through automatic grocery store doors while your heart feels like it's going to explode. It's saying, "Yeah, it's me." It's standing up straight when your instinct says shrink. This journey, my journey, isn't about clothes. It's about identity, self-discovery, acceptance, freedom, confidence built one shaky step at a time. And if you've ever felt like you had to hide who you are, remember this. You deserve to live integrated, not divided. You deserve to explore your authentic self without shame. You deserve dignity. You deserve courage. And most importantly, if you're hiding who you really are, remember this. The part of you that feels most honest, that's not the problem. That's the truth trying to breathe. Your story matters. Your truth matters. You matter. And sometimes, all it takes is one step. Shoulders back, chin up, walk through the doors, and let the world see you.